So tonight, welcoming everybody with a special evening. I think it was announced last week that we're going to have a siyum. And the siyum means that a certain part of the Talmud was learned. There's no bigger joy to Hashem, to God, than when Jews study the Torah. We have to realize that we come here every Tuesday night and study Torah. We're giving God a great joy. His kind of joy, we don't know if that is exactly, but it means something naturally. The biggest mitzvah is to study Torah. So when somebody accomplishes finishing a certain portion of the Torah, it's time to celebrate. So that's tonight what we're doing. The main celebration we want to have at 9:15. We'll make the official siyum of Din Michael Oorah, that he finished B'Metzia, Perik B'Metzia, what was it? What did he finish? El Metzias, in the Masechta B'Metzia. And just to get off on the right foot and put us in the right mood, we're asking Rabbi, our Toten guitarist, Rabbi Chaim, to introduce the evening with a nice little song. But before he does that, I want just to report to you that I visited Mrs. Linda Kammer just a few hours ago, and she said to send everybody her best regards. And I must say, I walked out from that house in awe, hearing the way she was talking. We know she's not very well. We hope Hashem will help she have a refuah. But she said words that were really appropriate for a great person, for a great tzaddik to say. Saying that she's not afraid. She's bedridden now, she can't get out of bed. She's very weak. But she's not afraid because Hashem, God's going to do the right thing for her. Whatever will happen, she knows it's God's will. And God loves the Jewish people, and He won't do anything that's not good for them. So she's not afraid. And she knows a person in this world, what they're here for. And she does her best to do what she should be doing. And therefore, she feels that she's happy. She was in this world, and we hope she'll be for many years to come. And she talks about, so thankful to God for what she accomplished in the world. And she has pictures of beautiful grandchildren right there near her bedside. And she's so happy with the nachas that she's getting. So it was a very, very inspiring visit, talking to her and hearing these great words of inspiration. We should all think about the same type of ideas when we're well and not sick, and thinking about all these wonderful ideas of what God's plans for us and what He has in mind for us and so on. So we wish her a lot of nachas and a lot of koiches, and she should live for many years and be able to kabel pnei Mashiach. Amen. And now, Rabbi Rachman, please, let's put us in the mood of the siyum evening, and then we'll get started with our Torah study. We'd like to welcome also Rabbi Osher Maskowitz, who just came. He's part of the big simcha over here. He studied with Mochel Din Oorah, the portion of the Torah we just mentioned before. They studied together. So they're both equally part of the simcha. We thank them very much for giving us a great simcha. Okay, so we'll get back to the siyum at 9:15, what we said. Right now, we're going to continue our study, Parsha Vayigash. And as we know, we're up to the part where Yosef HaTzadik revealed himself to his brothers after 22 years, and he told them, I am the second in command in the land of Egypt. I'm your brother Yosef that you sold. And now he's in the middle of trying to convince them that he's not an imposter, that's really him. Because it was outrageously almost impossible to them that he should be the one. After all, they sold him as a slave, and now he's sitting on the throne next to the king. So he had different ways of impressing them and convincing them that it's really him. So as mentioned last week, this is on our glossary sheet, that he told them, I'm speaking in the holy language of Hebrew, we'll call it, the holy tongue, and if I'm able to speak to you in that language, so you see that I'm your brother. In Egypt, people don't know that language over here. The question is, why didn't mention Binyamin separately? He said, you and Binyamin, you, the 10 brothers, and Binyamin. Why couldn't he say all 11 brothers? Why separate Binyamin from the other ones? And this is a very, very important idea with that which he said. Right? The question is, said, you, my brothers, see that I speak the Hebrew language, the holy language, and my brother Binyamin sees that I speak the holy language. Why did he separate them from everybody else? And Rashi tells us it might be easy just to go over it and not notice it. Number 2 on our glossary sheet, Hishveh as kulam yachad. He made them all the same. He certainly could not have any complaints to his brother Binyamin because Binyamin wasn't there at the sale. When they sold him as a slave, Binyamin was home. He was not with the brothers. So he certainly didn't have any problems with him, any hatred to him, because he was not there. So he told them, just like I have no bad feelings to Binyamin, I have no bad feelings to you. That means, as we mentioned before, last week and 2 weeks ago, he's telling them that I have no reason to have any complaints to you, any bad feelings to you. God is the one who did it. I gained from it. We all gained from it. I was able to prepare food for everybody during the years of famine. And I don't have any complaint at all. No bad, just like Binyamin, there's nothing there whatsoever by Binyamin. He loved his brother Binyamin. He came from the same mother, and he was not there at the sale. And there's not any reason in the world he should have anything against Binyamin. And the same feeling to Binyamin he had to them. That's what a great tzaddik he was. Not a mashu, not an inch, not a crumb. Any problem with them, any hatred to them, any bad feeling to them, totally wiped off the slate. We're totally as good as we were good old days when we were little kids. We had no problems with each other the same way now. You sold me, that means nothing to me. It was a good thing you sold me. So there's a very important words over here that Rashi is telling us. Shame, I have no complaints to him. No complaints to you. That's what you call a big tzaddik. You go, well, you sold me, and you have bad feeling, and you had bad intentions. Nothing. We're 100%. Brothers, 100%. Now, what happened after that? The brothers are still standing there, and they're speechless still. They can't speak yet. I'm your brother Yosef that you sold me to Egypt. They're still speechless. It took a long time before they were able to speak to him. So he's trying to get them to react. He's trying to warm up to them, to show them, to convince them that I'm him and I have nothing against you. So what was the next thing that he did? He fell on the neck of Binyamin, his brother, and he cried. Binyamin cried on his neck. They fell on each other, embraced each other, and they cried. And then he kissed all his brothers, and he cried on them. And afterwards, his brother spoke to him. When they saw this warmth that he had, that he's crying and he's embracing them, he's kissing them. So he's calmed them down. Finally, they started talking. Little by little, started getting some words out of the brothers to react. Till then, they were just too in shock to have any reaction with words to him. Now, if we look at the words itself that I just mentioned now, because it's on our glossary sheet, the numbers 3 and number 4, that he fell on Binyamin and cried. Binyamin cried on him. We assume that this is a normal reaction of two brothers who have not seen themselves for 22 years, and they're the brothers from the same mother, the same father. So the emotions are very strong, and the fact that they cried makes a lot of sense. Who wouldn't? But as we know, since we're talking about the greatest people in the world, the Shvatim, the children of Yaakov Avinu, all of their emotions and their actions represent something much higher. Just like we said, Yaakov Avinu, who mourned for his son for all those years, was a much higher idea than just he missed his son. When mentioned many times, it means that he did not accomplish his goal in the world, to spread God's name in the world. That's really what he was upset about. The same thing over here. These emotions represent something much, much more important, much more eternal, much more higher up in the echelons of greatness and spirituality. When brothers have these emotions, if it would happen today, such a thing like that, two brothers to get together, it happens today. People get together, they're separated during the war, people get to know their family, and people from the Soviet Union, from Russia, they meet siblings and family. After many years, they find out who they are, and they get together and they cry. But that crying, naturally for them, it's emotional. But in history, it will be forgotten, and more or less doesn't really make a difference to anybody. It makes a difference to them. But to the world, it doesn't make much of a difference. People have these emotions, and it's their personal, family kind of encounter that they have, experience that they have, but it's not really very significant to the world. It's certainly for the future of even those people who are involved. When we're talking about the Shvatim of Binyamin and Yosef, we're talking about something of eternal value, eternal idea, eternal influence. It's going to happen for the Jewish people. If they're crying for something greater than just letting out their emotions of meeting each other after 22 years. Rashi tells us, in the name of the rabbis, what Yosef was really crying about. He was crying about the destruction of the Holy Temple, he knew through his prophecy. I end the shul earlier, Master Rabbi. Okay, got to get the idea across. We'll try. Yosef saw there was a prophet. Binyamin was a prophet. Binyamin, the 12th son of Yaakov Avinu, of Jacob, the youngest son, had a portion in the Holy Land of Israel. Every Shevet had a portion except for Levi. Every Shevet had a portion in the land. And the portion that came to Binyamin was the place where the Holy Temple was built. Yerushalayim was where the Holy Temple was built. The first one, the second one, came out to be in the portion of Binyamin. And Yosef saw with his prophecy that in the future there will be a Holy Temple built in the portion of Binyamin in Yerushalayim, the holy city, and that will be destroyed by the Babylonians. He was crying that such a thing is going to happen to the Jewish people. He saw 70 years later a second temple will be built in Yerushalayim, the holy city. That will stand for 420 years, and that will be destroyed by the Romans. And he was crying. On the other hand, Binyamin cried when he fell on the shoulder of Yosef, because Yosef, in his portion, which is the city of Shiloh, there was a holy temple built there also. It's not as famous as the one in Yerushalayim, but there was a holy temple built in the portion of Yosef. And that was destroyed. And he's crying about that. Binyamin is crying for the temple that was destroyed in the land of Yosef, and Yosef is crying in the land on the temples that was built in the land of Binyamin and will be destroyed. They're using their emotions of relatives to show their emotions to God, because if we feel that way to relatives, to brothers, to fathers, to mothers, to children, so then we can transfer it and say, that's the way we feel about our relatives. How about God, who's our Father? He's a Father in heaven. We transfer that emotion and say, what happens if we're thrown out of our house, if we're thrown out from a relative, we're separated from our relatives, we feel very upset. If we're separated from God in the house of the Holy Temple, the Beis HaMikdash, where He's our Father, we live together in the Holy Temple of those here in Yerushalayim, it's going to be destroyed. If I feel bad about being separated from a relative, blood and flesh, how much more should I feel bad, be separated from Hashem? Avinu Shabbat my Creator. We have an eternal bond with Him. They use that emotion of relatives, of separation. If I feel that way to them, how about to Hashem? Something to cry about. The Beis HaMikdash, God lived there. That was His house. He was amongst Meshachante B'Soicham. God lives amongst the Jewish people through the Beis HaMikdash. He's with us. He's our relatives, our Father. He's called our brother, he's called our mother, all different relationships in the different psukim of the Holy Scriptures. God compares Himself to every type of relationship that we know of. A father and a mother and a brother and a friend and a wife and a husband. And if that becomes null and void, God removes His Shekhinah from the Holy Temple, from amongst us, how much should we cry and feel bad about? The question is, why in this particular setting is this point brought out? We said one reason just now, but the real deep idea over here is something that we have to take to heart something to learn from, something to live with. Why was the Holy Temple destroyed? One of the worst tragedies that happened to the Jewish people, the Holy Temple being destroyed. God was living with us, and he destroyed the temple and he went away from us. He's still away from us after almost 2,000 years. Still, every day we pray, build the Beis HaMikdash, come back again. We want to be together again. So what in the world caused them to destroy the Beis HaMikdash? This great tragedy. Our rabbis tell us, sinas chinam, because sinas chinam, number 7. Sinas chinam, hating without a reason, without a good reason, without the love that we're supposed to have for one another. And at the time of the Holy Temple, the Jewish people were lax and not up to the challenge of having the right feeling for one another. There was bad feelings of jealousy, speaking Lashon Hara against somebody else, like the Rabbi Chaim says. They didn't have that love and that compassion that the Jewish Christians have for everybody else in the Jewish nation. Sinas chinam. They were crying because what caused this whole thing to happen? They sold him for 22 years because there was hatred, because they thought Yosef was against them. Somebody explained at very great length and the time before when we studied it. But it was bad feelings between them. They came to the conclusion that they have to sell Yosef because they made a whole different calculation why he should be Chaim Misa, why he should not be around anymore. They have right to kill him. But what was the underlying thing that caused them to do it? Sinah. Because they didn't like him. Because he was favored by the father, whatever. We studied it very at length at the time. But the bottom line was sinah, sinas chinam. Because they didn't have the right love and the feeling and compassion for Yosef, and that's why this whole problem came. For 22 years they sold him, and Yaakov was mourning for 22 years, and they were going crazy for 22 years after they sold him, and Yosef was going crazy. Everybody was so upset. Why? Because sinas chinam. They cried because they saw that Beis HaMikdash will be destroyed in the future. What's going to be the reason for it? Sinas chinam. Just look what happened, because the sinas chinam that we had caused this whole terrible 22 years, everybody in the family suffering so much. Because sinas chinam. So we should learn our lesson already. Learn our lesson already and stop and realize that this is no good. We have to be able to see the other person in the right light and to judge him in the right way and not have complaints about other people. It's about time we learned. But they saw the prophecy that we didn't learn it yet. Because the Beis HaMikdash will be destroyed because of sinas chinam. And that's why they cried this particular time. Because they saw that look what happened now with sinas chinam and what's going to happen in the future with sinas chinam. And this is why he cried on his shoulder, because the Beis HaMikdash will be destroyed. He cried on his shoulder because that was the underlying cause. That they saw, look what happened over here. 22 years. So finally we got together, and finally we're back with the same relationship we had in the good old days. And now we realized our mistake and realized the sinas chinam is terrible. But in the future it's going to come back to haunt us again. That's why they were crying. So we have to take this seriously to ourselves. So we're doing a little research on what does the Torah say about sinas chinam. We have number 8 in the Sefer HaChinuch, which we've quoted so many times, the Sefer that talks about, explains the 613 mitzvahs that we have. We have 613 commandments, 248 do commands, 365 don't commandments. Number Reish Lamed Ches, 238. If you look in the Sefer HaChinuch, the mitzvah 238, L'sisna es achicha bilvavecha. You should not hate your brother in your heart. This is a lav, a forbidden thing for a Jewish person to hate another Jew in his heart. The Rambam tells us that if you tell him that you hate him, then you're not going against this mitzvah. If you keep it to yourself, then you're over in this mitzvah. If you have something against somebody else, tell him. Don't go around hating him and being against him, and don't tell him. Because if you don't tell him, there's no way to fix it up, no way to rectify it. Let him know. If he knows that you have something against him, maybe he'll explain to you that you made a mistake. I'm sure all of us have experienced that in our lifetime, that we thought somebody did something against us, and we spoke to them, we found out it was a mistake. Somebody said something, we thought, who knows what, and then we went to clarify what happened. We see the whole thing was wrong. It wasn't even, never even happened. Or he'll say, you're right, I did wrong, please forgive me. He'll ask for forgiveness. Give him a chance. Don't walk around with that in your heart. Some people like to keep it in their heart. They want to keep it that way. They feel good having things against somebody else. They don't want the person to ask forgiveness. That's really a bad midah, bad character trait, that they want to keep. I have something over him. He did something bad to me. That's a bad character trait. Rambam says, no, tell him. If you have something against a person, tell him. Once you tell him, you are not against this mitzvah, in your heart. You have to speak it out to him. And then we have mitzvah Reish Mem Gimel, the mitzvah 243. You should love your friend like yourself. We have to love every Jewish person kamoicha. So I'll just leave off. We'll have to continue next week because we want to get to the questions. But this is a mitzvah that seems to be very unfair. Chas v'sholom. God's asking us, love somebody. If we love him, can I love somebody? Loving somebody, I can jump up and down. I can carry him. I can give him a ride. I have the power to do an action. But do I have the power to have a feeling? If I don't love somebody, how can you tell me to love somebody? If I don't love him, how could that be such a mitzvah? So we'll have to explain that next time when we come to it. I mean, next week we'll come to answer that question. But we have that mitzvah, and this is the idea which we're talking about tonight, which we have to continue, that this is the reason why they were crying, because they saw in the future their children, talking about their grandchildren, talking about these are the shvatim, their children that will be in the future generations, are going to go through the same, repeating itself, with sinas chinam, with having this hatred and this bad feeling to somebody else, and there will be consequences again, just like there were consequences then, consequences in the future. And they're crying, is there any way we could stop it? What can we do to stop it? Okay, so now we'll start going to some questions to the audience. Anybody wants to say something?
Is it fair to assume that Yaakov Avinu was not guilty of sinas chinam? And if so, why did he have to be punished for not seeing his children all those years?
No, Yaakov didn't have sinas chinam. The brothers to Yosef had sinas chinam. Yaakov was the father.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a sin.
But he suffered not seeing his children all those years.
Yeah. Why did he suffer? Well, our rabbis tell us because he made his father suffer 22 years because he ran away when Asa was after him, and he stayed in the house of Lavan for 22 years, and he did not fulfill the mitzvah of honoring parents, and therefore, since he pained his father, he got paid back also the same way that he's paying for 22 years. That's why he had to suffer 22 years. Nothing to do with sinas chinam. Because the lack of his honoring his father for those years. Because that's to be understood. He ran away, whatever. We have a hand up over here. Oh, you want?
Yeah, we have a 26-year-old girl from Iran. Religious girl is asking, can a girl ask a boy to marry her? Is it against tznius if a girl does this? He's my colleague, and also he is a Talmud Chacham.
Well, I would say it's an interesting question. And I would say the following. I imagine that they've met each other many times, and she feels very strongly that they're for each other. And sometimes a man, I don't know how old he is, but sometimes a man is a little afraid of getting married, and he realizes the time has come, but he just can't pop the question. So sometimes he needs a little help. So if it comes to the extent where he had a chance and the chance keeps going by, so then she is okay to pop.
I don't know if they're going out or she just knows him, and she wants to just go out and ask him to marry her.
I don't think that's the case. Just go and walk in the street. Hey, will you marry me? Hey, you might put up a sign. Please, somebody, please marry me. I mean, I doubt that's the case. She probably knows him very well, and he's scared, he's afraid to do it. So sometimes he needs a little nudging to do it. So in that case, it's okay. Or she say to him, ask me to marry me. Maybe she'll do it that way. Ask me, okay.
Okay, my question has to do with the beginning of the Tanya. It says something about how before conception, when the soul is in Shemayim, like the soul takes an oath regarding like how it's supposed to like go towards being righteous.
Tanya's quoting the Gemara there. Tanya's quoting.
Well, it continues to say that if others look at you and tell you that what you're doing is righteous, you should consider yourself wicked.
That's Gemara saying.
And
yeah.
I just need that explanation because I don't get it.
Well, you have to learn the whole Tanya to get just the first lines. You'll have the Tanya. You have to go further and learn the.
Well, it just doesn't make sense to me because if what I think I'm doing is righteous and people are telling me what I'm doing is righteous, but I'm supposed to look at what I'm doing as wicked. That's like the basic language.
A simple explanation to that Gemara. That's all Gemara saying that you said now. He's quoting the Gemara. He didn't have a chance to explain it yet to Tanya. If you learn the future chapters that he talks about it. But that's the Gemara. So they make him first, before a person is born, they make him swear that you should be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. Be a righteous person, not be a wicked person. Even the whole world tells you that you're righteous, don't listen to them. Be in your eyes like a wicked person. So what it means is that tzaddikim chashnim es atzmam. Tzaddikim are always afraid that they're not doing enough. People think that tzaddikim, they look on the outside. A lot of people look like tzaddikim, but they're really tzaddikim. Maybe on the inside they're not tzaddikim. Maybe their heart is not where their actions are. Maybe it's an outside. It's a very shitchias. It's very artificial kind of serving Hashem. Some people have a store and they want in the Jewish neighborhood, so they want to get the business. So they go to shul on Shabbos, but they're not really religious in their house. They don't. So people can look religious on the outside, but on the inside they're not. So a person should always think to himself, everybody's saying, I'm a tzaddik, but am I really a tzaddik? Am I really have the right ideas and kavanah when I daven? They can't see what I'm thinking when I'm davening. They have I love every Jewish person like myself. And my kind of mitzvah, they can't tell that. They can't tell all the mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs have to do with our intellect and our heart. People can't see. But I know myself, person that's, am I up to par? Am I doing everything I should? So don't be carried away because when a person has to face Hashem after 120 years, like we say in Rosh Hashanah, test our heart in the day of judgment. God sees our heart. And God's going to tell us, yeah, everybody said you're a big tzaddik, but we know you went to tzaddik. So a person has to be always afraid. Don't get carried away with what people are saying.
Perfect segue to one of the online questions that came in. What's up with the Muslim-loving Hasidim? I keep seeing videos in the news with Muslim Hasidic rallies. Is that for real? Are they Jewish or are they dressed up?
Muslim Hasidim. What's
Muslim-loving Hasidim.
Muslim-loving Hasidim.
Yeah.
Muslim Hasidim. Yeah. Well, they are Jewish. They are Jewish. Maybe most of them are, maybe some of them aren't, but most of them are Jewish. And they are big chil Hashem. They're disgracing God's name in public. And I think they'll be very greatly punished in the future. But we have to understand that a very small sect, very few people are part of that group. They make a lot of noise and they get a lot of attention in the press because it's very exciting for people to see, like these who they love the Muslims, the Jews, and whatever it is. So they get that. There are very few of them. They have no real leader, no great leader. They have probably a lot of psychological problems, emotional problems, probably most of them, and they don't know what they're doing, what they're holding, and they're not an honor for the Jewish people. So they're just a small amount of people. They're making trouble, and I don't know if they really believe in what they're doing. They want to get attention. I never spoke to them, but they not to be taken seriously, just disgustingly.
Hi, Rabbi. My question is, it seems to me that you can avoid the isser of not hating.
Lo sisna.
Yeah, lo sisna. For your brother. Do not hate your brother in your heart.
Right.
And you can avoid that whole isser just by telling the person that you have a problem with them.
Right.
And that sounds like a very awesome thing to do. Except what happens when that person knows that you have a problem with them and admitting it will just instigate something? Are you supposed to just live with it in your heart and be over the transgression? Or is it worth it to come up to that person and tell them that
you're not transgressing that mitzvah, but you're still not mekayim b'haftarach ha'gamaycha. That you're not mekayim. If you if you speak it out to him, but you still have a hatred or a bad feeling in your heart, you're still transgressing the number 243 mitzvah of Haftarach HaGamaycha. So that the Rambam says that by telling him is not going to take that away. So you still got a lot of work to do. So you should get that off your chest and give him a chance to answer himself. But you should erase the bad feeling from your heart. That's the hard part. To tell him you have anything against him, not so hard. But to erase the bad feeling from you, that's the hard part of the mitzvah, which we'll talk about next week, Mr. Hashem, a little more about Rikas.
Everybody's here tonight, they're really with a lot of self-sacrifice, missing the first game of the World Series. We have an online question. Somebody wants to know if they could set their TV on a Shabbos clock so they could watch the Mets play Friday night.
Well, that's the old age question that people think about, talk about. Some people actually do it. Imagine that. Some people actually do it. And there is no malacha, from the 39 forbidden actions, a person is not transgressing when he does that, but he's transgressing the mitzvah chefzecha. The person is not supposed to do things on Shabbos which are profane, which are weekly type of actions and thoughts and words. We have to watch our words on Shabbos, how we talk. You're not allowed to say in Shabbos, I'm going to do something after Shabbos, which I'm not allowed to do on Shabbos. Shabbos is very strict in a way that we're supposed to forget about the week and our daily chores and ideas and we want to do. We're supposed to make Shabbos Kodesh, a holy day. And even to think about things is a mitzvah not to think about on Shabbos that are not Shabbos type of ideas. So a person putting on a ball game, watching it on Shabbos, certainly is not within the boundaries of Mimsa Chefzecha from going after our routine daily lives of during the week. That's number one. And number two, that I say that the person who puts on the TV on Shabbos, probably his children will be driving cars on Shabbos, because he's taking away from the whole theme of Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos. If that's a person who's so interested, he has to watch a ball game on Shabbos, instead of watching Hashem on Shabbos, and doing holy things on Shabbos, instead of studying Torah on Shabbos, if that Shabbos means to him that he can watch a ball game and make it profane Shabbos in such a way, then his family, his children are not going to get a good feeling of Shabbos at all. They get the wrong impression, and but them wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't keep Shabbos altogether because they don't see anything holy about Shabbos. It's just a regular day. So it'd be a very blunder as far as chinuch, as training children is concerned, to have in the family, whoever it is, to show them that you're watching a ball game on Shabbos. So it has a lot of flack to it.
Okay. Why did Hashem give Avram 10 tests if he knew he was going to pass them?
Why did he give 10 tests? Who's talking now, can I say? Why did he give him 10 tests? First, I don't see who's talking. Oh, yeah, okay, nice. So, yeah. Could you repeat the question, please?
Why did Hashem give Avram 10 tests if he knew that he was going to pass them?
Oh. Well, there are many ways to attack the answer to that question. You're going into the question of Bechira and Yediyah, free choice, and God knows what the future is. So that if we go into that right away, we could say, well, God knows, but there's still Bechira. So we have to, avoiding that, getting to that issue, number one, because giving a test is not only for God to tell if he's going to pass the test. It's for the world to know, like Rashi says, that everybody should know that why I chose you as my special person in the world and make a special covenant with you, because he passed the 10 tests, so therefore the world will see why it happened. If God knows himself, so how's the world supposed to know? So therefore God puts in the Torah, he passed this test and that test. Now we all know why he's chosen to be God's special person in this world, where he made a covenant with nobody else. That's the simple answer. There's other answers too, but that's the main answer, like Rashi says. Atu yadati. Now we have what to tell the Musa Olam, that why I chose Avraham Avinu, because look what he did, especially the last test. He took his son ready to sacrifice him to God. So he is worthy of being chosen from all other people in the world to make my covenant with him.
Online question. Why do rabbis always have beards?
Well, first of all, not all rabbis have beards. That's not even true. Not all rabbis have beards. There's no law in the Torah to have a beard, and except we have to be careful how we cut our beard. A man has to be careful how he cuts his beard. He can't cut it with a razor, but if he cuts it other ways, so it's permitted. According to the Kabbalists, there's very deep ideas of having a beard, but having a beard is a natural way that God created man to have a beard. So we don't want to tamper with God's getting a haircut. Of course, you might argue the same thing.
This Friday night is Halloween. So how should one act in terms of like going non-Jews that come to your door? Like I've read about certain rabbis, big rabbis, that they would actually give out candy to non-Jewish children. I read that some people just don't answer the phone. I've heard that answer the door. I've heard of some people that they actually leave a basket outside of candy so that they don't ring their doorbell or knock on their door. How should one?
Because of Shabbos or anytime else?
No, anytime for Halloween. How should you?
Well, it's not different than the halacha, the law that we treat non-Jews like Jews in many ways. We have to give charity to non-Jews, and we have to help them with their neighbors, and we live together with them, and we want to be in peace with them. So we have to visit the sick, if we have to bury the dead. All these things we're obligated to do for non-Jews also, to live normally with them. So the same thing when it comes to Halloween. If they come to the doors, so you treat the kids nicely. Why not? Shabbos is a problem because you're not supposed to give things out of your house on Shabbos. Therefore, people put outside. They shouldn't come on Shabbos to take from your house. It's a question of, if it's not the Shabbos kind of shiloh, of course you should give them. Why not? You should.
We'll never come back for sure.
I'll give them chance. Then they have a problem to come back every week from then on.
Okay. We have an online question.
I just wanted a story. Can I say a funny story? Yeah.
Sure.
That I was once visiting my son. It was in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania. They have a shul over there and an outreach center. And I was there once Friday night. It was Halloween. And we were dressed up with our black hats and the coat and the beard, some of us. And we're coming back from shul. And all the kids are going around Halloweening. And then we come down the block. And they said, "Here they come. Get the candy ready." They thought we're all Halloweeners with black coats and beards. And so we thought we really cleaned up if we wanted to. But when we got closer, they had a good laugh, but
Okay.
yeah.
Online question. God knows what each person is really all about. Why is it not enough to be a good Jew at heart?
So I don't understand the question. So why be at heart either? If God knows what we're all about, so don't create us all together. I don't understand exactly what would be a good heart. But I imagine that what they mean is a lot of people say, I'm sure we're here for many people, I'm a good Jew at heart. I don't do anything else, but I have a Jewish heart. So I say to those people, so according to God, should have only created your heart. That's all you need. You serve Him with your heart. If God created us with our hands and our legs and our eyes and our nose, that means He wants us to use all our parts of our body to serve Him. If He wanted to serve Him only with our heart, He would just give us a heart. And we know that every mitzvah in the Torah corresponds to a portion of our body and our soul. And every mitzvah that we do gives a certain holiness and purity to that corresponding part of our body. For a person, like I always say, a man puts on tefillin, so that gives a kedusha, a holiness to a person's arm and his hands. A woman lights Shabbos candles, her hands get a certain kedusha because she's doing mitzvah with her hands. So it comes to the world to come, that was the great reward God's going to give us, is by clinging to Him, being close to Him, and by sanctifying every part of our body with every mitzvah. We make ourselves holy, and we're able to cling to Him and be able to receive the ultimate reward in the world to come. Because every mitzvah that we did, we made it holy, and we cling to God. If we don't do those mitzvahs, we did not sanctify that part of our body, we will not be able to cling to God to the fullest extent. We will not be able to receive the reward that He wants to give us. So every mitzvah that we do is very important because that elevates every part of our body to be close to Hashem. If we only did mitzvahs with our heart, we would not elevate our body to cling to Hashem with all of our parts of the neshama, of our soul, and our body. So very important to every mitzvah. Yes, sir.
So Rabbi Mintz said about...
Who's talking? Oh, here, okay. He had his hand up, okay.
So Rabbi Mintz spoke about being direct with people instead of being over lotusna, to say, how you might feel and to settle it. I wanted to ask that question in the context...
the system you're talking about, you should give out your complaint to the person. Tell them what you have against them.
Yeah, instead of holding it in your heart. So I wanted to ask that question in the context of in a parent and child situation where, my Rosh Yeshiva in Israel would always say you can't say no to your parents and you can't even say you're right because that's putting yourself on their level and that you just can't do that. But in a world today, I know at least what I've always been told, a classic line that years ago, a parent would look at a child and give him a stare and the child would understand exactly what the parent is thinking. Where today, it might work until a certain age, and then the child has a mind of his own. But my question, what I'm trying to get to is, if a child, is there something that's reasonable that's bothering a child? Not that the parent didn't buy him a Rolex watch or something, but something, it could be an emotional or a psychological thing. Is it okay? Is it kibbud av va'em to be direct with the parent in a respectable manner?
Oh, there's something they have against the parents. Something they feel the parents not treating them right.
It's about being direct with the parent, than maybe holding it inside, and then kids grow up with a certain negia, they grow up with a certain a feeling that they never spoke about, and then it might blow up when they're 18 or 21, but. I'm asking as like a young adult or as a teenager, there's something that might bother a child. Is it okay to be direct with a parent in a respectful manner, in 4 eyes, and say how, or no, but meaning is it?
I understand.
In terms of, because the child, the way you might say it is there's something wrong with the parent, but really what I'm asking is.
You have to do it in a way which is respectful. I think the parent would welcome it. But you don't tell the parent, attack them and say, you're wrong. You say, well, you're probably not, probably I'm right, probably you're right, but I sort of don't understand. If you can explain to me. It's just like if you give a rebuke to a chocha, to a rebbe, or to a parent. If you see them doing something wrong, you're obligated to tell them, but it has to be in the right way. You say in such a way, well, isn't he supposed to do this? I'll ask him a question. Aren't you supposed to do this? And then, you don't say, you're wrong, don't do that. You have to say it in a respectful way. The same thing over here. Don't tell the parents, you know how to bring up your children. If you would have done that, you say, I don't understand, why, if you would have done that, maybe it would have been a better effect on me, and so forth. If you say in a respectful way, parents will appreciate it. Usually, they want children to talk to them and bring out a problem. Again, they'll explain themselves. Maybe you won't come to a final answer, whatever it is, but certainly if you get it off your chest to say it in the right way, in a respectful way, then that's permitted to do it. It should be done.
I accept that. Just like, then how is it like if you say to your parent, you're right, and you're putting yourself, you're equalizing. Obviously, there's 2 different scenarios to begin with, but just.
So you don't say, your Rebbe is right. You don't say, you're right. They say, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I see. It makes a lot of sense to me. I understand. It shows if they're teaching you something. Not you're giving them your pat on the back. You're right. They say, oh, you're right, and I learned something from that. I see what you mean. You give them the respect that you're not putting the same plane with them. That's what he's saying. So by saying you're right, you can say it in a different way, and not just in the way that you're showing that you respect their intelligence and their decision, and to say the right words. That's all.
How you doing, sir?
Hi.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
So one is a quick one. Second one is a little involves this parsha. Is that okay?
Well, let's start with the quick one, then we'll see. You got the mic. No one can do anything to you.
Okay. If I'm davening in English, and it says Hashem when I'm davening, should I say Hashem or should I say my master? Or
Don't say Hashem. Don't say Hashem. No.
Say my master, right?
No. Even though you said kind of, but you say God's name. Don't say Hashem.
And the second question is.
Is it a philosophical question? No. Oh, you ask me afterwards. Okay.
Okay. Hello. I was wondering, why would Yosef and Binyamin cry, knowing that the 2 Beit HaMikdash will be destroyed, if they also know that that there'll be a 3rd one built? Like, if they know that the end game is going to be all happy, then why cry at the other 2?
Well, it says somebody dies, God forbid, the family. Why cry? They'll get up, the dead will rise soon. So why cry if somebody dies? Right now, it's a tragedy. Right now, you missed them. Right now, they're not here. So we could have had them all these years alive, and they're not alive right now. So it's something to cry about. Don't people cry? Some people leave, go away for a trip, and they're going for a year. Your parents and they cry. Why are you crying for? They're going to come back soon. But in the meantime, you miss them. So based on for sure, all those years, 2,000 years, we don't have the base. So that's okay. We went through all those 2,000 years because God wasn't with us. All the Holocaust and the Inquisitions and all the Torah that we went through because there was no Beis HaMikdash. So you can't say, well, Mashiach's going to come eventually. In the meantime, it's terrible. So it's something to cry about. Why wouldn't the gentleman have a chance to ask the second question? I know it's a general, maybe it's not technical, maybe it's general. It's a general question. You got me. You got me all curious. You got me all curious. Ask him if it's too technical. Ask him, what's your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hashem saved the city where Lot went.
Stone. Oh no, it's Zohar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So was there 10 tzaddikim in there?
No.
There was 8.
No. There were no tzaddikim there. No tzaddikim.
So why did he save it?
He saved it because of a special request from Lot, who was the nephew of Avram Avinu, and they didn't have any. Rav said they didn't have so many sins in Zohar. Mitzvah, there's less sins than the other cities. That's why. See that? Nothing to it.
Okay, one last online question.
That's a very important answer. Not so many sins, God doesn't punish. Okay.
Last question, online question. I know tattoos aren't allowed. Why are piercings different? Or are they different?
Piercing means like piercing the ears or something like that, you mean?
Ears, nose, lips, tongue.
I mean, to put on rings on it, you mean? Piercing.
Rings, studs, all sorts of things.
Well, the simple reason is because tattoos you can't remove them. Even rings you can take off and put back again. It's not a permanent thing. It's not tattoos you're putting in under the skin. Here he's just putting it on, you can take it off. So it's not the same thing. Tattoo that you remove is also permitted. It's only if kids put on tattoos, they put on on top of the skin. That's okay.